This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How we doing today on a football Friday? It's the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. You're checking us out on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither6, or listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Amazon on your favorite podcast platforms. Going to have a lot of fun on a football Friday. Yeah, Alabama is off, but I've got 10 games. Oh my gosh, 10 games on the sheet to get into and several correspondents to chat with. So we're going to get right into it with our friends from Miami on SI, Boston College on SI, Missouri on SI, all the Walsh Writing networks. They've all got games this weekend to get into. So we're going to talk about the big college football weekend, even though Alabama is off. But before we introduce our guest, we're going to go and tell you about our friend Derek Daniel, State Farm Insurance, right here in Tuscaloosa. You can call him today at 205-758-3391, or you can visit him online at agentderekdaniel.com. You can see him in person at 4604 Highway 69 right here in Northport, Alabama, 35473. He's about a mile off McFarland Boulevard, right by the Tiger Rock on the left. Look, everybody hates insurance. It's not a fun thing to deal with, but Derek and his team make it very, very easy. Call him today at 205-758-3391. He'll get you a very quick auto insurance quote. If you need life insurance or if you need home insurance, you need somebody to you're updating something on your house or have questions about your home insurance, Derek Daniel and his team can help you out. Call Red, Reese, or Victoria at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. So let's get right into it. Let's have a lot of fun on a football Friday. We're going to be chatting with Justice Sandel from Miami Hurricanes on SI. We're going to be chatting with Tim Rankin, Boston College on SI. It's a big weekend for two ACC schools. Soon we'll hear from Joey Van Zimmeren, I believe, from Missouri Tigers on SI. I want to start ladies first. I want to start with Tim Rankin, and I want to start with Boston College and their game with Missouri last week. Alabama, we were traveling to Wisconsin, so I haven't had a chance to really look at it. Obviously, we've kept up with the score on the road, losing to Boston College, losing to Missouri. Tell us the story. What went down in Columbia, and really what caused Boston College to lose that game?
Yeah, so a very close game. Boston College suffered their first loss of the season, 27-21. They had the lead. They got up 14-3 really, really fast. It kind of looked like maybe Boston College was going to pull the upset, and then kind of late in the second quarter / mid-second quarter, Thomas Castellanos threw an interception, got Missouri into pretty good field position. They kicked a field goal on that, and then momentum just kind of swung towards Missouri. Boston College was up 14-3 midway through the second, and then by the first possession of the third, they were down 24-14. So just kind of right after that, they just lost momentum with the Missouri home crowd and everybody just kind of getting into it. And they never really could get back out of that adversity a little bit. Kind of went ice cold in the second half, a bunch of 3-and-outs. They did score with about 3.5 minutes to go to cut the deficit to 6, but they couldn't force a 3-and-out on Missouri. Their defense was just gassed. So very good game, very close. It just kind of seemed like the momentum shift really just didn't help them. It was really the first major adversity that the team has faced all season. You know, they dominated Florida State from the get-go on Labor Day night, and then obviously shut out Duquesne. So they just couldn't do it with the away crowd. So hopefully they can bounce back tomorrow night.
What did Bill O'Brien have to say after the loss?
I mean, he talked about things he thought he could get better, just said they weren't playing their best, and then said, we'll look at the film and move on to Michigan State. He's very much just kind of look at it, see what they did wrong. Didn't really dwell on it at all this week. He was even asked about Missouri to see if he had any final thoughts on it on Tuesday, and he said, Nope, we're on to Michigan State, no more Missouri. So, he wasn't the happiest about it, but I mean, it's the number 7, then number 6, now number 7 team in the country. So you can't be too mad when you just barely lose to one of the top programs in the nation, especially with a program like Boston College, who's been kind of around that mid area for so many years. So can't be too mad about it, but he did talk about some things they got to work on. Thomas Castellanos talked after the game, really blamed himself for it. And yeah, now they're looking forward to tomorrow night.
She's Kim Rankin. You follow her on the Twitter machine at KM Rankin right? KM Rankin _ on the Twitter machine. And then you follow the BC on SI for their great work. So, Kim, what did you learn about Boston College after the game with Missouri?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was that they still have some things they got to work on. I think that Florida State game, I talked about a little bit a second ago. I think they had so many high expectations going into the season. And then after beating Florida State, although the Seminoles are not as good as what we thought they would be, I think the expectations got even higher after that. And then they played an FCS team in Duquesne. So I feel like having that challenge on the road against a big team just showed they still have stuff to work on. I mean, Thomas Castellanos is a great quarterback, but he's not perfect, had a couple issues. Penalties are still a little bit of a problem. They only had game 1, 5 game 2, and 5 again against Missouri. So penalties are starting to become an issue. And I think it just shows that the defense can't play super long minutes. They were out there constantly from the second quarter on, and they just looked exhausted by the fourth quarter, which is honestly why I personally believe that they couldn't get off the field, because they kept going on there. And that was actually one of the keys I talked about, was owning time of possession last week if they wanted to win the game, and the defense was just out there too much. So yeah, there's a couple things I think they've got to work on, but nothing too major, nothing I think that would really alter or change the trajectory of the season moving forward.
All right, we're also joined by Justice Sandel, cover Miami Hurricanes and Miami Hurricanes on SI. That Miami has had a great start to their season, beating Ball State this past week 62-0. So once again, steamrolling inferior competition. Justice, what did you learn about the Hurricanes this past week?
The biggest thing I learned is that Cam Ward should be the front runner for Heisman. I understand Jalen Murrow had a great game against Wisconsin. Quinn Ewers is injured right now, so can't really talk about Quinn Ewers, but Cam Ward is fantastic. He's really only played 2 games of football. He's been taken out at halftime pretty much for the past 2 games, but then they've been FCS opponents, so it's not really much you can take away from that. He's been throwing for 300 yards in the first half on the previous few games. So it's a lot of things to learn about Cam Ward. The defense is playing fantastic. A lot of the young talent like O.J. Frederick is playing amazing right now. Most of the injuries right now, they're getting most of their players back. Ruben Bain is still likely going to be out for this USF game. A couple other players like Damari Brown. But the offensive line has been injured. Not many people have noticed this, but the offensive line has been injured for the past 2 games. They're going to get a key starter back in the USF game with Jalen Rivers, and Inez Cooper went down with an ankle injury last game. So with that, I think that the passing game has been fantastic. I think another thing that I've learned is that the run game hasn't really been effective. I don't know if that's because of how good Cam Ward has been through the air, but the run game just doesn't really get to flex what they've been able to do. In garbage time, it's garbage time. They're blowing out teams about 30 points at halftime, then you just run the ball to let the clock go out. So right now they're averaging over 200 yards rushing. That's mostly garbage time. But from what I've learned so far, look, I think they're a top 5 team in the country, but it's that SEC bias, of course, and they're going to have all those SEC teams at the top. But Miami is one of the best teams in the country, and Cam Ward is fantastic at football.
His counterpart at Miami Hurricanes on SI, Scott Solomon, he was in the building this past Saturday as the Hurricanes were blowing out Ball State. So Cam Ward is off the table, Scott. Who else? What stood out to you in Hard Rock Stadium?
Well, I think you have to look in the trenches. That's where the game is won. Miami won the game with their defensive line, putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Ball State's got a good quarterback. You got to give the guy credit. And we were in the backfield the whole time. Tyler Barron and Elijah Alston were just all over him. And I think Miami's offensive line protected Cam well. And they started running the ball better in the second half, and they were chewing up clock.
Well, what are the chances, Kim Rankin, that we can get an all Walsh Riding Network ACC championship game? You got Miami, who looks unbeatable through 3 weeks against inferior competition. But we've got the little engine that could in Boston College, winning game number 1 against Florida State and kind of working their way through non-conference schedule. What do you think about having an all Walsh Riding Network ACC championship game?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was like randomly thinking about that the other day when I was, prepping for the week. I was like, that'd be kind of crazy if Miami and BC were the 2 teams to make it to Charlotte come December. I think it's possible. I don't think it's the highest chance, looking at, I actually did a story earlier last week on kind of where Boston College's win probability throughout the rest of the season. And assuming everything holds, I used ESPN's matchup predictor to see, kind of where they had the Eagles in every game, if they were the favorite to win. And if everything goes right in that, they'd go 9-3 this season. The only 2 that they're not favored against was SMU, and I think Louisville was the other one. So, I think it's possible. It just kind of, if that situation does play out in itself, it'll just kind of depend on other teams, because you got Louisville, who's ranked. Obviously, Miami's more than likely going to go. You have Clemson, who's kind of sitting in the bottom half of the rankings, who, although they did get steamrolled by Georgia, have looked okay the last, couple weeks. And then you have Syracuse, who's pretty good. Virginia Tech, who, although had that loss to Vanderbilt, they can get hot, and if they get hot, they could still have a chance too. So I don't think it's unlikely. I think it's very probable that could happen. I just don't think that's like the highest chance that it's going to be those 2. But I would personally really much enjoy it being those 2 teams in Charlotte come December.
Of course you would. Of course you would. I think Miami's in the driver's seat. Boston College is going to have to do some improving. Scott, I want to get you to chime in on what Justice was saying as you were waiting in the wings about Cam Ward and his Heisman Trophy kind of the start. I mean, you're a quarter of the way through the season, 3 games in of the 12-game season. Is Cam Ward the front runner for the bronze statue?
I think Cam Ward is the guy to beat. Quinn Ewers was running 1A, 1B with Cam. I think that Cam Ward right now is the man. I mean, he's got 3 300-yard games, 3 for 5 touchdowns last week. Granted, it was Ball State, but you still got to put the ball where it belongs. And he's hitting the receivers in the basket. He's doing everything he's got to do.
Well, we will project forward and see how Miami does with a little bit tougher competition this week. But before we do that, we got one more recap. Our man, Joey Van Zimmeren. You follow him at JoeyVZ_. And Joey, we already heard from Kim, the losing side of the matchup. But how did the Missouri Tigers, you follow Joey Van Zimmeren, Missouri on SI, how did the Missouri Tigers pull away from Boston College and win that ranked matchup? One of the few ranked matchups last week.
Yes. Well, to give you the coach speak, Missouri learned and showed off.
You don't want coach speak, Joey.
Well, I'm going to sample the coach speak and say, because I think there's a good amount of truth in it, and that Missouri showed that they can respond to adversity, fight back to adversity. They go down 14-3, and then they get, I would say, lucky. Thomas Castellanos makes a bad decision. I don't know if it was a miscommunication with his receiver or what, but Tre'Vez Johnson, Missouri safety, is basically out there playing middle field and just has to get in right position to get that interception, and that flips the game on its head. Missouri goes on a 21-0 scoring run after that interception in the second quarter, and so that changes everything. And I think the one thing about that game that is concerning for Missouri, there's a lot of good. They saw Luther Burden really show out for the first time this season, just because in the first few games of the season he didn't play too much. A lot of positive signs. They had a good game, but also the one concerning thing would just be the slow start that they did have. And if they don't get that interception in the second quarter, how different that game would be. And I think especially getting to SEC play now, getting off to a fast start is going to be a key area. And Drinkwitz mentioned it earlier this week on where each side needs to improve on, besides special teams, really. Kicker Blake Craig is firing on all cylinders right now. But both offense and defense, especially offense all season, we talked about it last week. This Missouri offense all season has not been the greatest in the first quarter. Against Buffalo and Boston College, they were scoreless in the first quarter. They had a 3-and-out in Buffalo in the first quarter, and then 2 drives falling stagnant in the first quarter against Boston College. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what to attribute it to, really. Drinkwitz said penalties was a factor, and that's a factor with everything this team has going on right now. Those have definitely been an issue, and I think it does, lead to the slow starts they've been getting off to. I don't know what the fix is, but I'm not the one that's getting paid to figure that out. So definitely something to watch, though, as Missouri enters into SEC play.
All right, so now that we've got all our pundits here, we got Justice Sando and Scott Solomon from the Miami Hurricanes on his side. We've got Kim Rankin from Boston College on his side. Joey Van Zumeren from Missouri on his side. Everybody from the Walsh Riding Network. What I want to do is go around and give each of your programs. You're going to grade your own program through the first quarter of the season. Obviously, you're 3 games into a 12-game season, 1 quarter down. Alabama's on a bye, so I'll keep mine very short and sweet. We'll have Joey and Scott kind of work together, Justice and Scott work together, but Kim and Joey will work on their own teams by themselves. I'll start with Alabama just to open it up, and then we'll just send it around a circle and see what we do here. Alabama through 3 weeks, obviously, everybody, all of our listeners know you beat Western Kentucky, you beat South Florida, and you beat Wisconsin. It was a lot of fun to be up in Wisconsin this past weekend, but you beat 3 teams that I think are pretty deficient in several areas, especially in the passing game. So I am impressed with a lot of areas that Alabama has been able to have success in. And I've gone over that at great length on the program. I'm not going to waste all our pundits' time. I think that Alabama's probably in for a B+ at this moment. There's still a lot of room for improvement in the running game, especially on the defensive side of the football. And I think there's a lot of room in the intermediate passing game and really down in and down out execution for the offense. So I'm going to give Alabama a B+ because you've still had a lot of huge plays offensively and a lot of havoc plays defensively to put yourself into great positions against these inferior opponents. That's still a lot of room to grow. So B+ for the Alabama Crimson Tide from myself. Justice and Scott, you'll go next. You guys can debate it out. I want you guys to grade the Miami Hurricanes through 3 weeks. You played Florida. You beat the brakes off the Gators. They stink, and they've proven to be not good since then. And then you play 2 high school teams. So what have you learned, and what do you grade the Miami Hurricanes? Take it away for us, gentlemen.
You want to go first, Scott?
No, sir. You go first.
All right. So, in all honesty, I'll give them an A-, right? So, A, of course, they're a top 10 team. They're fantastic right now. Offense is flying off the walls. The issue is the run defense. Not the run defense, sorry. The running offense, it hasn't really been there outside of garbage time. I think that'll be something that'll kind of be played into in this USF game. So they might do something like that, might start trying to implement more of that. I think the issue for me is that we don't know the full strength of the team because of the injuries. Ruben Bain Jr. has been out since the first game, so we don't actually know how good that defensive line can be. Right now, they're monstrous. But you add that addition of Ruben Bain Jr., who knows what they could be. Now, right now, they're the 12th ranked rush defense right now. I think that'll be something very interesting to watch with the USF game, who's averaging close to 300 yards a game on the ground. So that'll be something to watch out for. Cam Ward is Cam Ward. I don't know what else you can say about Cam Ward. He's Cam Ward. The receivers have been fantastic. The offensive line, it's been pretty good. They just need to get better with their run blocking. But outside of that, I'd give it about an A-.
I like to grade the team on a pass-fail basis. I don't think assigning a letter grade when you play Ball State and Florida A&M is a fair and accurate measure. So I'm just going to say that they've passed all their tests and they are working their way back from where they were in prior years. I think that Cam Ward, like Justice said, he's Cam Ward. He's the best player in the country. He's going to win the Heisman. He's going to win the Davy O'Brien. He'll win every award that's out there for a quarterback or for the National Player of the Year. I think he's also a candidate for the Maxwell Award. I think he'll win that one as well. But you really have to look at what Miami does when they flip the field. They have their defense out. They have a strong defensive line, like I said earlier. And they have a punter in Dylan Vance who, when Miami has to punt from the 50-yard line, he can pin them inside the 5 or 10. So when Miami ends up going 3 and out on defense, they get the ball back in plus territory. And I think that helps a lot. And I think that's what's going to help tomorrow night when we go to USF.
All right, so you get a big old pass for Scott and an A- from Justice. Kim, take it away with the Boston College with your first quarter assessment.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence about what grade I really wanted to in between like a B+ and an A-, but I think I'm going to go with an A- only because just to see where they were a year ago. You know, right around this time a year ago, they were struggling against FCF teams. Like they, you know, so I think to see what they've built so far, although we're only 3 games in, they have played 2 pretty decent opponents. In that one loss to one of the top 10 teams in the nation on the road by less than 1 touchdown. I mean, I don't think you could ask for much better from that. Obviously, they're not perfect. They've got to work on their penalties. They've got to work on, you know, getting the defense a rest. Obviously, what we saw in Missouri, like I said earlier, they have to work on a little bit of dealing with adversity because they're not always going to be up in every game, kind of like they have been previously. So they have to deal with how to face adversity. But I think overall, you really can't ask for much better. So I'm going to go with A- because they do have some things to work on, but I think they're in a really, really good position.
Joey, what about the Missouri Tigers? They haven't really seen much competition outside of Boston College. So how do you assess the Tigers?
Kind of take the same route as Kim. They have met or exceed expectations depending on who you ask before the season. And I guess just going off the AP polls, they've moved up each week besides this week. They started out the season at 11, have gotten as high as number 6. But again, like Kim said, for Boston College, Missouri does have some things to work on. At the same time, though, I think all of those are solvable errors. I think they'll eventually clean up their penalty game. I think they're going to eventually figure out the problems they've had in the passing game, not being able to connect on deep passes. And I think they're going to eventually work out the slow start issues they've been having. So I'll share the same sentiment as Kim and give Missouri a A- on the year.
Well, everybody's feeling good. We're through the first little bit of the season, but the season's about to crank it up, and everybody's about to play a little bit more competition. Vanderbilt brings the pain for Missouri. Miami going to South Florida, and Boston College is bringing in Michigan State. So everybody playing a little bit better competition than they've seen the last couple of weeks. Let's get right into it. I want 3 thoughts because Alabama's off, so I get the easy week. I want 3 thoughts for each of you guys going into the game, and then I've got 10 games to pick. So we're gonna get right into picks after 3, just kind of bullet points. This is what I'm looking for this week in this week's game. So Justice, once again, we'll just have the Miami guys go first. 3 thoughts for each of y'all. This is what I'm looking for with South Florida. Look, I love South Florida. I love me some Alex Golesh. He's come in. He's earned my respect the last 2 years, putting Alabama through the test. So I really love this matchup, and I'm looking forward to this game. So 3 thoughts from each of you guys with Miami going to Tampa to take on the South Florida Bulls. Justice?
All right. 1, how will Cam Ward react to the blitzes that they're about to throw at him? They blitz Jalen Milroe up, down, left, right, and center. How will he react to that, and how will he play towards that? 2, how will they handle the run game? They are a very good run-stopping team. They have been over the past 2 seasons, but if USF is putting up close to 300 yards on the ground, they might get somewhere close to that. Right now, Miami's only allowed averaging around 69 so far, but Florida doesn't look like an SEC team right now. Ball State, and then you have FAMU. Unfortunately, that's not competition. So this will be their first, I would say, true test of competition. I think that. 3rd, I think will the defensive line be able to create that same pressure that they've been creating over the past few games? FSU has a good offensive line. They were able to mitigate some of that pass rush that Alabama was simulating. I'm basing this game off of what Alabama's been doing because they're in that same range. Is Miami in that same range as Alabama? That's where I'm simulating most of this stuff from. So those are my key things. How will Cam Ward handle the blitzes? How will the offensive line hold up, and how will the defensive line hold up?
I think this is Miami's toughest game of the year. not from a talent standpoint, but this is a trap game. Miami's heading into their ACC schedule, and this is the game that you could very easily look past. And USF is a very difficult opponent. They are not going to be an easy team in the first half. I think Miami's going to win it going away, but I believe in the first half, and especially in the first quarter, USF is going to look to keep it close. That they have very, very talented ground game. Miami's going to have to be at their best. They can throw 8 in the box because I don't think their quarterback is all that good. So I think they can stuff the box and be able to play very well. I think that field position game is going to be very important. We've got to be able to flip the field if we're going to go and punt the football. We need to pin them inside their own 20-yard line and make them drive the distance of the field. Miami can't turn the ball over. Cam Ward has been excellent this year. He's only thrown 1 pick, and it was due to a bad route against Florida. He's got to keep the same mindset, and he's got to be able to watch the football, protect the football. And Miami's got to go. I think they've got to use a little more Jordan Lyle and a little more Chris Johnson in the backfield, because, like Justice said, they were getting a lot of yardage in mop-up time, but they were using true freshmen, in mop-up time, and those guys are really quick. Chris Johnson's one of the fastest guys in the league, and Jordan Lyle is a very hard-nosed, punishing runner. So I think they need to get those two into the game earlier and let them get their repetitions.
That's 3 thoughts on Miami at South Florida. They're going on the road. Kim, let's turn it over to you. Boston College on SI. We're going to keep the very interesting non-conference schedule going. I'm pretty jealous of you. Your non-conference schedule has been pretty interesting. This week you get Michigan State Sparty coming to Chestnut Hill, 7 o'clock on the ACC network. What are your 3 thoughts for the Boston College Eagles?
Yeah, I think thinking about 2 of them are thoughts I've already said, but I think my number one thing is how are they going to handle adversity? Like I said a couple minutes ago, they haven't faced adversity yet. You know, they led the entire game on Florida State. They shut out Duquesne, and they were leading for the first quarter and a half against Missouri. So it'll be interesting to see how they can battle back from adversity, how they come out, if they look kind of sluggish, or if they really have put that Missouri game behind them and are looking forward. 2, can they clean it up? You know, penalties was a massive issue last year for the Eagles, and they came out against the Seminoles in week 1 and only had 1 penalty in the entire game. And it looked like it was something that had really been cleaned up. It was something Bill O'Brien and players talked about throughout all of training camp, all of preseason. And then they had 5 against Duquesne and 5 against Missouri on their own. And although that doesn't seem that bad, if you're averaging 5, like they're on pace to have more penalties. If they average 5 for every other game for the rest of the season, they're going to have more penalties than they did last year in the entire season. So I think how they can clean it up. And then my third thought really doesn't have anything to do with the matchup in particular. My third thought is just how tomorrow night's going to go. You know, tomorrow night's a very special night for the Boston College community, the Eagles program. It's their 11th annual Red Bandana game, which honors the life and legacy of Boston College alum and former lacrosse player Wells Crowther, who lost his life in the 9/11 attacks. He was working in the South Tower, and he, after the plane had struck the South Tower, he kind of led a rescue operation to help people to safety in the South Tower, and then lost his life when the tower collapsed. And he was credited with saving, I've heard, anywhere from 12 to 20 lives in the South Tower, helping them to safety. So they've been doing this every year since 2014. And so that's the game this weekend that they have chose to honor him. And I think it's just going to be a really special night in general. So I'm just kind of excited to see, you know, the community and the players and just kind of how everybody, you know, the emotions surrounding that game for sure.
Joey, how in the world do you follow that? The Missouri Tigers are opening SEC play with Vanderbilt coming to town. Vanderbilt, big-time underdog, but obviously got the big win against Virginia Tech. What are your 3 thoughts with the Tigers this week?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'm going to be looking towards as soon as the game starts is how their plan to contain Dago Pavia. We've talked the past 3 weeks going up against multiple quarterbacks, and each one has been a little bit different. CJ Agbano with Buffalo has it was mainly just design runs that they were going to try. Castellanos is more out of structure, his creativity. And then with Pavia is just a physical runner like Big Ben Roethlisberger. So how that changes how Missouri goes about this defensively. We heard Drinkwitz talk about last week. They were a little bit more conservative defensively with pass rush. With a guy with Castellanos that can beat you with your speed. If you get a little too aggressive with your pass rush, then you're losing guys back there if he goes out there on his feet. So interested to see the game plan for that. Secondly, how this Mizzou offense does against Vanderbilt defense and the difference of the Vanderbilt defense. Clark Lee taking it over for the first time in his time at Vanderbilt. And this was the only reason Clark Lee is in this job is the defense he built at Notre Dame with Mike Elko. So that'll be interesting to watch. Drinkwitz said that it is pretty similar to what they've been running at what Lee ran over at Notre Dame. So he has that rover position there that Drew Tranquil and Jeremiah Wusa-Corono was so successful at Notre Dame. So what that challenge presents to the Missouri defense, obviously, or what that challenge presents to the Missouri offense, obviously the Missouri offense kind of had their way with Vanderbilt last year, putting 38 points up. And that leads me to my third thought of, will this be the game where deep passes finally start clicking for this Missouri offense? I talked about it a little bit ago, but going back to that Vanderbilt game last year, that was really just an explosion of things that have been building up the past few weeks for the Mizzou offense leading into that game in week 5 of the season. And you saw Marquise Johnson, the true freshman back then, welcome himself into the SEC with a 44-yard touchdown there. And that just has been pretty absent for the first few weeks for this Missouri offense. So we'll see if the extra work that the Mizzou coaching staff did this summer watching Notre Dame defensive tape from 2018 pays off and they're able to hit on some deep passes.
All right, so it's going to be a huge week. Week number 4 in college football. Alabama is off. I've got a huge slate. I wrote down all 4 ranked matchups. I wrote down some of these SEC on SEC games. Obviously, the 3 programs that we're dealing with here, Missouri, Miami, and Boston College, their games as well. So a huge slate. Let's pick some games. Before we get into our picks, though, for the week, let me tell you about Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in the state of Alabama and Mississippi. Purple Turtle Roofing, whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. They're the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for a free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635 to schedule your appointment, and one of their qualified employees will come check out your roof for free and make sure you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. You can check them out online today at roofturtle.com. All right, no Will Miller on the program today. We love you, Will Miller, but the picks will be fast. Rapid fire picks for us today. We're going to go starting with Friday night. The only game forward tonight is ranked matchup. Number 24, Illinois is at number 22, Nebraska. I'll just start. We'll just circle all the way around, and then we'll circle it back around for the next few picks. So everybody will know when you're up. You don't need to be called on. Just jump right in with your pick. I will begin. Nebraska is an 8.5-point favorite tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox. I am taking Patrick Mahomes Jr. and Matt Rule. The Nebraska Cornhuskers keep their strong start going. I'm taking the Cornhuskers. Justice Sandal, you're riding with me.
Dylan Raiola is a very good quarterback. I'm taking Nebraska as well. I think Nebraska is on the verge of being back, and once they are, I think Raiola will ascend to that next level.
Yeah, I'm taking Nebraska too. I think they're just they look pretty good this year. If I'm not mistaken, it's at Nebraska, so I think the home crowd's really going to help, and I think they keep that good start to the season going.
I think Vegas is right. I think Nebraska covers this by at least 8 points, probably more.
Joey, I think you skipped Scott, and that's okay. Scott.
It's all right. I'm used to going last. I like the Cornhuskers as well. I think they're going to win by the game and cover.
Oh my gosh, 5-0. That means fade us all. Take Illinois. Take Illinois. So that's going to be Friday night. We'll keep it rolling. We're going to save all of the special games, Missouri, Boston College, and Miami for the last 3 picks. So we'll go. Next one is going to be Florida is at Mississippi State, 11 o'clock, ESPN. Florida is a 7-point favorite. I know that Mississippi State just lost to Toledo, but I think that they're going to bounce back at home, winning their SEC opener for no reason other than I just think that Billy Napier and the ship is just sinking so fast. I'm taking the Bulldogs. Joey?
I agree with you. I mean, there was rumors generating this week of Eli Drinkwitz going to Florida. So they've already started their head coaching search on Florida Twitter, it seems. So I'll take Mississippi State in this one.
I'm going to take Mississippi State as well. I think you could take Miami Central and have them beat Florida. I just don't see Florida pulling anything out of a rabbit out of a hat this year. Before they look for a new coach, they need to look for a new athletic director because Scott Strickland's the one who hired this monkey. So they need to go ahead and hire somebody else to go ahead and pick the next coach.
Yeah, as much as I want to take Florida and be a little different, I just don't think I can. I think Mississippi State, although they did lose last week, I think they're a better program. I think they're a stronger program. And like it's been said, I just think Florida is just kind of a dumpster fire right now. And I just don't think they're going to come out of it anytime soon. So I'm also taking Mississippi State.
Right.
Do it, Justice. Do it.
I can't, though. I can't. Mississippi State can't tackle to save their life. Like, genuinely can't tackle. But I don't know if Eugene Wilson is playing. That's the major thing right now. I think he's questionable. If they put DJ Lagway in, I would choose Florida, but I'm going to choose Mississippi State, unfortunately.
Mississippi State doesn't have to worry about tackling. Florida's not going to catch anything. Those guys can't catch a cold.
Mississippi State's defense is awful right now. Yeah, I did like there's a stark difference from Zach Arnett and who's the DC right now. It is bad right now.
I'm saying praise the Lord that I don't have to be in Starkville on Saturday morning to watch that game. That's all I'm saying. And I'm also saying, moving on, praise the Lord that I don't have to be in Auburn this coming week to watch Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite. ESPN. Oh, I know Hank Brown had a good game this past week. Oh, and I know Arkansas struggled, and they gave Oklahoma State some hell. War Eagle. I'm going with Auburn. I'm going with Auburn at home. I think Hank Brown goes 2 in a row. Justice Sando, you going with Auburn or Arkansas?
Arkansas. Peyton Thorne is not a good quarterback, and
it's not going to be Peyton Thorne anymore.
You're right. That's my bad. Well, that changes everything, man. I'm still going Arkansas. They put up a great fight against Oklahoma State. I think they'll continue to try and build that momentum.
Yeah, I'm like you, Joe. I don't want to say it. I don't like saying it, but I've seen enough Iron Bowls, and growing up in Alabama, I have watched Auburn enough to know about Auburn Jesus. And when I always pick against them, Auburn Jesus comes and does something to give Auburn the win. I've seen it happen enough times. So I think them playing at Jordan-Hare, I think Auburn Jesus is going to show up, and I think Auburn's just going to barely pull it out. But I'm going to take the Tigers.
War Eagle by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm jumping on the Auburn train too. I think Hank Brown is going to have like one of those streaks we see in the NFL where like a backup quarterback, it can be a journeyman, it can be like a random rookie, like goes in like Tommy DeVito last year and randomly pulls out a few wins.
All right, let's step outside of both of our conferences into the Big Ten. One of the few ranked matchups of the day. Number 11 USC goes across the country to take on number 18 Michigan. The Trojans, a 4.5-point favorite, 2:30 on CBS. It's the old SEC time slot, but it's a new conference. I think it's going to be USC win another home loss for Michigan. I think they're in for probably a rude awakening without everybody's signals that they play this year. So I'm taking the Trojans. Joey?
I'm going with USC too. I think it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes them for their reputation over the past few years to escape them.
I'm going to go with Michigan here. I think USC, their game's going to be figured out. I'm not sold on Miller Moss yet. I think their defense is still suspect. They haven't really played anybody, with the exception of LSU, who I think they played poorly against. They were lucky to pull it out. I'm going to go with Michigan only because the game's at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with USC. I actually think I thought they kind of impressed LSU considering, week one pulled that comeback to go ahead and win the game. And I just think Michigan struggled so much this year, especially with a new head coach, with Jim Harbaugh leaving for the NFL. I just think they're struggling too much. I don't think you can change that much in just 1 week. So I'm going to take the Trojans.
I'm going to take the Trojans as well. Michigan has a great defense. They have no offense. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing.
Okay.
Got me on an island.
Well, that's okay. You've been there before and been successful. That's okay.
It's all right. It's all right.
We'll keep going here with another Big Ten team playing an SEC team this time. UCLA is going to Death Valley. The only question really is, will LSU cover this 21.5-point spread? And I think they won't. I'll say that LSU wins, but UCLA covers. 2:30 on CBS as well. Do I have CBS? Oh, I wrote that down wrong. 2:30 on ABC. I'm taking LSU to win, but UCLA to cover. Justice, how are we feeling about this non-conference matchup?
They're walking in the Death Valley with an L, so I'm taking LSU. Brian Kelly, I hope he gets I hope he exercises all of his close game demons out and just go ahead and just blow them out the water.
Yeah, I'm going the same thing as Joe. I'm taking LSU. I'm taking UCLA to cover, though. I don't think LSU wins by 21 and a half. I just think LSU is a better program. And obviously Death Valley is one of the hardest, if not the hardest place to play in college football. That's going to be a very tough environment. And I just don't think UCLA has the experience in an environment like that to come out and pull a road win. So I'm taking LSU.
I think for entertainment purposes only, as we always say, I think I'm going to go with LSU on the money line. I like the money line bet with LSU. They're going to win the game, but they're not going to cover.
I would agree with you. I don't know if they're going to cover there, but I still think they're going to win. It feels like one that they need after a close one with South Carolina last week. Get South Alabama next week, and then they start off with Ole Miss for another stretch of SEC play. So I think Brian Kelly needs this one.
I think he absolutely does. All right, the probably one of the biggest matchups of the day, because it's going to have huge playoff implications. Number 12, Utah, is a 1-point favorite at number 14, Oklahoma State. Will Cam Rising play or will he not play? I think that's basically going to determine the Utah fate. If he plays, I'm taking the Utes on the road. If he doesn't play, I think Oklahoma State and the Cowboys win at home. Joey, how we feeling about Big 12 right there? Conference championship almost on the line in week 4?
I'm going to go with the Fates align for Cam Rising, and Utah pulls this one out.
I'm going with Joey. Utah wins this one.
This game is so close to predict. I'm going to be different. I'm going to say Oklahoma State just to not have everybody pick the same team. I'll be the underdog for this one.
They're saying Cam Rising is expecting to play. If he does play, I'm taking the Utes.
All right, the last game before we get into all of our specific games is where College Game Day is going. Number 6, Tennessee is at Oklahoma. Oh, I didn't write down my spread right there, actually. Let me scroll to the bottom there. Do I have it? What's Tennessee? They're a 1 million-point favorite. Tennessee is a 7-point favorite out there in Norman. And I think I think they're going to cover that 3 times over. I hate saying it, but I think Tennessee's going to win. Going away, Josh Heupel is going to say a big old hello to his old fans at Oklahoma, leaving happy. Justice?
Tennessee's going to blow them out. I genuinely think they're going to blow out Oklahoma, and I think it's going to be bad. Nico is fantastic, and so I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tennessee is just the better overall program. I think they're very good, and yeah, I think they cover. I don't see this game. I know it's ranked. I don't see it being very close either. I think Tennessee wins, and I think they cover.
Not so fast, my friends. I've been to Norman, Oklahoma. I've been to games I've been to Boomer Sooner Nation. I think they're going to pull this one out, and they're going to beat Tennessee. Nico is a great quarterback. He's got a lot of room to grow, but I think he's due for a bad game, and it's going to happen this week.
I would love you, Scott, if that's correct. Joey?
Yeah, selfishly, I want to say Oklahoma wins this one so that there's more stakes for when Mizzou hosts Oklahoma in November. But I think even with that environment, Tennessee is going to continue to have a strong season here.
All right, we're all done. Everybody's got their own games under the microscope. We're just going to take this by time. And the first game up on our sheet on Saturday is Vanderbilt and Missouri. Vanderbilt is at Missouri, number 7 Missouri. Missouri's a 20-point favorite. Joey, you need to go last this time, so we'll just keep going in the same circle. I'm going to take Missouri to win, for sure to win. But I think Vanderbilt covers the 20 points. I think Vanderbilt covers the spread. They believe in themselves just a little bit. But I like Missouri to win for sure. Justice?
All right. I like Missouri to win, too. I think they're due for a big offensive explosion. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. It might be a high-scoring game, but I think Missouri's going to win. Cover, I think it'll be like a 2-touchdown game. I don't say 20.
Kim?
Yeah. Sorry, I agree. I think Missouri wins. I don't think they cover because it's 20. If it was sitting closer to 14 or 14-ish, I would think they would cover. I mean, Vanderbilt did have that impressive week 1 win over Virginia Tech, but they are still Vanderbilt, at the end of the day. So yeah, I think Missouri wins it, but I think they don't cover.
I'm going to go with Kim on this one. I think Missouri wins, but does not cover. That's a lot of points to lay.
The opening line for this game was 16-point favorites for Missouri, which feels closer to accurate. I don't know what happened where they suddenly became 20-point favorites. I don't know what happened over the week. But yeah, I think, I could see them covering 16 points. 20 feels like a lot. But yeah, I agree with Justice. I feel like this could be a game where we see the Missouri offense unleashed.
Well, tell everybody while we have you here before we move on, what y'all are going to be focused on, Missouri Tigers on SI. You and your team up there for Rowe Field. You can follow Joey Van Zimmerman at JoeyVZ_. Tell everybody what you guys are going to be focused on in the press box at Rowe Field with the SEC opener.
I think big picture, just seeing what, they have bye week next week, just seeing what we can really learn from this team and how they're going to look in the SEC play. Obviously, Vanderbilt is not the best example for the Blue Bloods of the SEC that they're going to have to face in Alabama, Oklahoma, and even, some of the tougher competition they're Vanderbilt. However, just to see how much of what we saw on the field from them in the first 3 weeks was legit and what was a result of the competition. And we got the first taste of that against Boston College, and now we'll continue to see just how legit this Missouri team is, and specifically this defense, which still looked really strong over the first 3 weeks of the season.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Missouri in SEC play. We'll keep rolling here. This time, Scott and Justice, you guys are last. Miami at South Florida, 6 o'clock on ESPN. The Hurricanes are a 17-point favorite. I picked Alabama to cover the spread, and they barely did not. Just some mistakes right here in Tuscaloosa against South Florida, and obviously some strong play for the Bulls. I'm taking Miami to cover the 17. I think they'll cover it in the third, fourth quarter. It'll probably be a closer game in that first half. into the third quarter. But I do think Cam Ward is really, really good. Is he the best quarterback in the country? Maybe Jalen Milroe has something to say about that. But I do think Cam Ward is really, really good, and the Hurricanes will win and cover going away late at 6 o'clock in ESPN. Joey, you want to chime in? Then Kim, and then we'll let the Miami guys kind of wrap that game up.
I think Miami should hope it's not as close as Alabama played USF, and I think they win it pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, looking at that final box score, Alabama USF really doesn't do it justice. They struggled almost the whole game. I don't think it's going to be the same. I think Miami wins. I think they cover. And also just really quick about this little Heisman debate. I think whoever doesn't win, whether it's Cam Ward or Jalen Milroe, I think the other one's going to be the runner up. They're obviously two of the best quarterbacks, but yeah, no, I think Miami wins, and I think Miami covers pretty easily.
I'll let you go, Scott.
Well, thank you. I think Cam Ward wins the Heisman tomorrow night. He's playing on national television, trap game. Nobody expects Miami to cover. And I think that he is going to put on a show, and Miami covers, gets the win, and Mario Cristobal finally gets off the schneid.
I won't say that just yet because of how the schedule is about to play out. They have Cal next, and then they have Louisville too. Cal, somehow, some way, they are a good team this year. So I didn't really expect that. So that'll be a good road game. And then you have Louisville. I think he'll win the Heisman in the Louisville game on the road. I think that's when he'll do it. But I do expect a big game from Cam Ward. They'll cover the spread. I think they'll do that with ease. It'll be a battle, I'll say, in the first quarter, but I think Ward will figure them out very quickly and just take off from there.
All right, Justice, tell everybody how and what you guys are going to be writing Miami on SI, how the coverage is going to go on Saturday evening.
So the plan is Scott's going to be there covering the game live, and he'll get everything there from the press box and do all those things. The big thing is how we play the Bulls and compare it to Alabama. Because if they do better than Alabama, we're pushing that top 5 narrative. Miami should be a top 5 team. If they beat them and they do it in a better fashion than what Alabama did, we should be the number 4 team in the country. And I think that with that, all the talks about Texas being back, Georgia still being there, the talks of Miami officially being back is going to start kicking in.
Scott, any comments on the goals of what your coverage will be on Saturday night?
My main goal for tomorrow night is that I can get video after the game and I don't have my hand shake. I bought a tripod and I got to figure out how to use it.
I have faith in you.
Thank you. I really believe that we're going to be going with a lot of columns this week as a result of what happens in the games. We're going to have some opinion pieces. I'll have live updates all throughout the game, and I'll be in the press box 3 hours before the game. So if we have any lightning delays, we'll let you know.
Oh, I pray you don't have a lightning delay. I know you were all over it last week, though. So make sure you guys are following Miami Hurricanes on SI, everybody, for all their great coverage as they're going to be in Tampa. Great, Raymond James Stadium. That'll be a lot of fun. Last game on the list, Kim. Save the best for last. Michigan State is at Boston College, 7 o'clock on the ACC network. The Eagles are a 6.5-point favorite. You'll go last this time. Michigan State, I mean, what have they really done? A 6-point win against Florida at FAU. They've won a conference game, so you want to know in Big Ten play, but you beat Prairie View 40-0. I don't know. I think they're going to have a hard time going to Chestnut Hill. But Bill O'Brien, he's totally revitalized himself in my own eyes. So I'm taking Boston College. I think that he has embraced his role as I'm the Boston College coach, and I'm just giving it, having a fun time doing it. I'm taking the Eagles and the 6.5. Justice, we'll go Justice, Scott, Joey, Kim to wrap us on up.
I want to take Boston College. I think Bill O'Brien and Thomas Castellanos, I think that's a very good pairing with the quarterback coach setting. So I think it'll be a very explosive game. I think Castellanos will start putting himself in that top 5 range of ACC quarterbacks.
I concur. I like Castellanos a lot. I like the fact that he's mobile. I like the fact that he can throw on the run. And I like the fact that he's not afraid to check down when he has to. Boston College has some speed, and I think they're going to win and cover.
This is a night game, so I think Michigan State is going to honor one of their greatest alumni in Kirk Cousins and not show up for this night game. And
He showed
I
up.
think you can,
He was there Monday. At least he gave him there Monday.
That's true. That's true. I guess Kirk Cousins has worn off a little bit of that reputation, but I still am going to give him flack either way. And yeah, I think they take this one easily.
Yeah,
Hey, for a minute and 39 seconds, Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback in the game.
He had a great Monday night for the Falcons. Kim, why don't you tell us your thoughts, your pick, and how Boston College on SI is going to be covering the game?
Yeah, so I think Boston College is going to win. I think they're going to cover. I mean, Michigan State is 3-0 this year. But like you said, hasn't been like the best teams. I mean, Florida Atlantic and Prairie View, I guess the biggest game you can say they did was that game against Maryland where I think they won by 3. I think it was 27-24. But I think a night game back at Alumni Stadium after what happened in Missouri, the fans are all in it. The fans have been so passionate and so big about this football program this year, even before Boston College took the field on Labor Day night. So I think having all the fans there, they had 6,000 students show up in the student section, filled it out for Duquesne. So I think playing a bigger opponent, I think they're going to have a bigger crowd. I think the fans are in it. And like the fans like to say, Bill O'Brien is building a monster. So I'm going to take Boston College and I'm going to cover. And I think they're going to cover the spread. And I think, a lot of it is obviously going to be columns about how they bounce back, what you see that's different, things like that. Kind of how they work that adversity. Obviously, we'll have coverage about the fact it's the red bandana game and things like that. And kind of depending on how the last, I don't think Boston College can do this on their own merit currently as where they're sitting, even if they do, beat the brakes off of Michigan State. But I think if you see some of those anywhere from 20 to 25, like ranked teams start to lose, I think you can have a conversation on will Boston College be back in the AP top 25 on Sunday. I don't think they can do it on their own. I think they're going to have some other teams help them out and lose to push them back up. But they're currently sitting right around 30. If you kind of rank them past the rankings they've received, I think it was 7 votes in the AP poll. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember how many they received off the top of my head, but they did have them. They're sitting right around 30. So I think definitely if you see some upsets take place, then there might be a conversation to see if they'll be back in there on Sunday.
It's been a lot of fun hanging out with all 4 of y'all today. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Make sure you go follow everybody on the Twitter machine. Joey Van Zimmern at JoeyVZ_, Mizzou on SI, Scott Solomon at Scott Solomon NFL. What is it? Miami Central, Kane Central SI. It's Kim Rankin at KM Rankin 1, the BC Central on SI, and then it's Justice Sandal, Justice_News 5, also with Kane Central SI. Guys, I hope you have a great game weekend. I'm going to kick my feet up and enjoy the game. Enjoy watching all of y'all work. If anybody needs any help, y'all just tap in and join us. But thanks so much for joining us. Y'all have a great weekend.
Have a great week off.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody jumping in and joining us right here on the Joe Gaither Show. It was a great week, great bye week. We'll get into Georgia stuff really, really heavy next week. I just wanted to save some of it. Enjoy the bye week. Kind of look at the first couple of weeks of the season, digest it before we dive into the Georgia week that is next week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy the games next week. It's a lot of SEC games. Auburn, Arkansas. Enjoy that slop fest. That's going to be a terrible game to watch, but I know a lot of you will be watching it. So check it out. We'll be back next week for more episodes of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, right here on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, right here on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6, and more episodes on podcast platforms, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Have a great weekend, everybody.